Good afternoon, Gulf Coast. This is Vance Whitaker bringing you another word from Scripture for your encouragement during COVID-19. And today that is from Romans 8, verse 28, which is one of the great promises of Scripture that says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." One of the ways, maybe the primary way that we fight fear and anxiety and stress and discouragement during times like this is that we trust the great and precious promises of Scripture. And this is an incredible promise that all things, COVID-19 included, work together for the good of those who love God. We have a couple of challenges, of course, in believing this promise, and one of those is that sometimes our definition of good tends to depart from God's definition of good. While we tend to define it in temporal terms, in terms of our comfort or our immediate sense of security, God defines it according to the very next verse, verse 29, which says that those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. This is our greatest good, and it should be a great comfort to us that God knows what our greatest good is much better than we do. God plays the long game. He is conforming us to the image of his Son and storing up glory for us in the next life, which is the real life, the lasting life. And so we should take great comfort from the fact that God is the one who truly knows what our good is. And we need to conform our idea of good to his. The second challenge we may have in believing this promise is that it's hard to believe that evil and tragic things can fall into the definition of all. And there is one thing that for me convinces me that all really means all, and that is the death of Christ himself. There was no more tragic and wicked event in all of history than the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and yet God used that crucifixion. God used that great evil, that great tragedy, as the very thing that would save us. And so there's nothing that can separate us from the love of Christ. And you'll read more about that and later in Romans chapter 8 as you study it. So all really means all. All includes COVID-19. God is working even the most difficult, even the most tragic, even the most things that are clearly caused by the fall for our good. So remember that. Remember that God knows what your good truly is. Remember that all really means all. And I encourage you to study Romans chapter 8 as a way to encourage your soul during these times.